this is Tripler Pell with Chalant Media. We're here today with local author, educator, and healer JA Carlton to talk about a couple of her upcoming releases. Hi, Jill. Thanks for coming out.
Hey, Tripler. Thanks for having me.
Now, I've got a lot of questions about your upcoming projects, but before we get into that, tell me a little about yourself.
Okay. I've been a massage therapist going on 24 years now. I'm a radiographer I graduated in, 2003, so that's 12 years. And been a chiropractic assistant for 8 years, and I've been writing since I was about 12.
You are also a hypnotherapist for about 2 years now, correct?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, 2 years. Even when I was a kid, though, with regards to the hypnotherapy, I was always fascinated with the idea of the subconscious and the unconscious mind and how we can utilize that to change what we want in our lives and kind of, make our lives more what we want them to be versus what other people wanted us to make them be.
Do you use it?
I do, both personally and with a few select clients.
We'll talk more about that later, but let's get back to your upcoming projects. They're really at opposite ends of the spectrum, but from what I've seen of your body of work, you really don't stick to any genre, do you?
No, I write what grips me. It doesn't really matter what the genre is.
There's something else I've noticed following you on social media lately. You recently started hashtagging a lot of your tweets with SPN and always keep fighting. So what's up with that?
SPN is a shout-out to the show Supernatural and its fandom. Two of our local boys star in it, Padalecki and Jensen Ackles. And it's actually because of them and their show that my Heroes of the Line series was born, and really why I'm here to write it.
What do you mean?
The show centers on a couple of brothers who travel around saving people and hunting things. It also takes us through a lot of the garbage that they go through and how, as brothers, they manage to get through it or not. It's what inspired me to give myself permission to get back into writing.
So when did you get back into writing?
Getting back into it probably about 10 years ago. Thanks to, again, Supernatural. It was something I enjoyed doing when I was a kid. I started when I was about 12, but got a lot of criticism for it. Teachers telling me things like, nobody's ever going to want to read something like that from a girl. And, 15 years of literally hundreds of form rejection letters. Eventually you start to get the point that what you have to say really doesn't have any validity. So I stopped writing for a long time, and it pretty much almost killed me.
That sounds awful.
It was horrible. It was one of the most self-destructive things I could have done. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one who does it. But 10 years ago, now almost 11, along comes this awesome show with this incredible fan base full of people just like me, other writers, vidders, sculptors, artists, artisans, quilters, and every single one of us was inspired by this show with these two guys. Most importantly, though, we were encouraged by each other to do whatever it was that we loved.
So that's when you started writing again.
Yeah. And here we are 8 books later with numbers 9 and 10 about to be released and 4 more on the back burners waiting to be written.
Very cool. So you just finished the first draft of book 4. It's called The Fourth Tier, Heroes of the Line, book 4. And it's sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure, correct?
Yeah. It took about a year longer than the other ones to write. It's pretty complicated. The first book starts off nice and easy. It's Nick of Time, Heroes of the Line, book 1. The boys are 10 and 5. The readers get a chance to meet them before their destiny comes calling, when they're still relatively innocent.
What do you mean by relatively?
Nick's mom or Nick's mom's boyfriend, I should say, isn't exactly in the relationship for her, if you know what I mean.
So he's a pedophile?
Yeah. And like many of them do, he insinuated himself into the family to get at the boys. As a consequence, once Nick realized what he was all about, he did what big brothers do and did everything he could to keep Frankie safe, including putting himself in harm's way if necessary.
So would you consider this not really a series for children?
I kind of would have to go with the young adults, 13 and up. I figure by age 13, most kids know somebody who's being molested or abused in some way. And if they're experiencing it themselves, then what they've already gone through is going to be a heck of a lot darker than anything I address, especially in book 1.
You tend to explore the darker side of human nature in your novels. For example, in Broken, you explored the creation of a serial killer through abuse and forced incest. In Soul Hunter, you gave us the ghost of a serial child killer. And in your Freedom Fighter series, you go into government-orchestrated genetic cleansing and engineering. Should we be surprised if the subsequent Heroes of the Line books get darker?
Definitely not. I do try to ease the reader into the darkness. In book 2, Secondhand, we actually shoot forward by about 4 years. The boys have been training and studying for the day when they're faced with their destiny.
And what is their destiny?
To lead a band of descendants of ancient heroes in a war against the living dark and its sinister agents, the Shades. So in book 2, we actually encounter a couple of Shades and even enter their fortress. But it still largely takes place in our world. It's a lot faster paced, but it's still kind of careful about the reader's sensibilities.
All right. And what about book 3 and book 4?
Well, 3 hopefully grabs you by the shirt front and starts swinging you back and forth between universes. It introduces a huge amount of new characters, basically a whole other world of them, and kind of, cleaves open the whole history that neither the boys or their uncles know about. Their uncles are the ones that have been raising them for the last 4 years. And in book 4, that's where the gloves came off. Nick and I argued about it for months about certain things. There's a couple of Facebook posts about it, too. Finally, he just convinced me to let him have his head, and I couldn't really be happier with how it turned out.
Do we get any hints about that?
No. Sorry, you got to read it. That's what it's all about.
All right. So with the first draft done, it should be ready for release in November.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
And on top of that, you have another book releasing this fall, too, correct?
Yeah, this one is going to be nonfiction. I don't like writing nonfiction, actually, but it's going to be called At the Crossroads, and it's a compilation of 3 different books that I've been working on for the last decade.
And from the summary I have, it deals with rewriting your own personal program, breaking away from the burdens and expectations that others, like, parents, family, peers, tend to put on us, and trying to reorient those ourselves towards what we want for ourselves instead of for others.
Exactly.
So, all in all, how would you say we do that? I mean, in so many cases, we become products of the world around us and the wants and people around us. They create us in a way, and you're talking about throwing all of that away and starting from scratch.
Not quite from scratch. I'm talking about keeping what they've given us that's good and then pitching what doesn't fit with who we need to be for ourselves. All the other people in our lives, the family, the friends, the peers, we may love them, and in the end of it all, we may never have enough time with them, or we might hate them, and every moment will be an eternity in hell. It kind of depends, but there's only one person who's with us from birth to death, 24/7, 365.
And that would be yourself.
Exactly. And if you can't be true to who you feel you're meant to be, then you can't be true to anyone else either. It's like being a slave.
Would you say, like, being a slave, isn't that a little harsh?
No, I'd say what's harsh is for people to think that they have a right to tell you who you should be, even if it's only implied. It's an unconscious evil, and it's something that's been going on since the dawn of human evolution.
So why the title At the Crossroads? I mean, it sounds sort of Faustian.
It's very much where I was when I started working on it. There were 2 questions that I couldn't shake. Am I going to let other people pass judgment on my life? And, of course, who are they to do so in the beginning? And am I going to sit there and accept it because it's expected of me? It's really the kind of deal that drags your soul straight to hell. And underneath all that was this, low-frequency current that had me thinking that I might not even have the right to break free of other people's expectations. So it kind of became an idea of not letting yourself be measured by somebody else's yardstick instead of what you know in your own heart and soul to be true, especially for the sake of material safety. That really is the kind of deal that strips the soul out of you. And, of course, anything with Crossroads has to have a tie-in with supernatural.
It sounds like it really changed your life.
Yeah, it saved my life, and it helped me hunt down my demons. So if I can help somebody else do that, whether through my fiction characters or by sharing what I've learned so far, there's nothing that I could think of that would be better than that.
Awesome. All right. So, one of the things I've noticed you've done with a lot of your characters, especially your heroes, is to give them a kind of personal dubiousness. And this ranges from their morals to their sexuality.
I'd rather call it flexibility. I try to keep their reactions to situations as honest as they can be within the parameters of their personalities.
But you don't hesitate to force their hands sometimes.
No, and I don't feel like I should. I'm pretty sure that in every one of my fiction books, there are characters whose sexuality and orientation are questionable, and in some of them it's downright in your face. But those are not the important issues necessarily. They just happen to be parts of the character.
Okay, but by presenting it the way you do, especially with books like Broken and your Heroes of the Line series, you're helping bring a lot of things out in the open that a lot of people don't really want to see out in the open.
Well, that's because people are focusing on the wrong things. It's not a person's gender or sexual identity or orientation that makes them a hero or villain. It's their actions. And when it comes down to the stories that I write, in the end, that's all that makes them a hero or villain. So hopefully when the audience or the readership realizes that the character of the character is what makes or breaks them, they're going to see that it levels the playing field.
Right. So you think by keeping the focus on what's really important rather than focusing on ancillary information, that information that has little or nothing to do with the actual story itself.
Exactly.
So what about those other projects you've got simmering on the back stove?
Well, there's Avalon, what I hope will become a series of novellas or short stories, kind of imagining it like a TV series in book form. There's The Body Banquet and In the Name of God, and, of course, The Fifth Principle, Heroes of the Line, Book 5. At least that's what I've got so far.
Do you think The Fifth Principle will be the last book in the series?
I'm pretty sure, but it's entirely possible that other universes might pop into being, and if that happens, then I can't guarantee anything.
All right. Well, it sounds like you've got your plate incredibly full.
It is, and I'm grateful for every morsel on it. Oh, there was one more thing that you had asked about earlier, and that was the hashtag Always Keep Fighting. That is Jared Padalecki's campaign to help raise awareness about depression, anxiety, and addiction. He's also working with Random Acts of Kindness to get funds where they're most needed. So if anyone is interested, please go ahead and check these two things out and see if there's something going on in your neck of the woods that you can help with.
What are your plans to get involved?
Depending on how things go, since the fourth tier is going to be released in November, I'm hoping to be able to make a donation on behalf of Nikki and Frankie for the sales of all the Heroes of the Line books that go out that month. Kind of my way of giving thanks for everything I've received.
And we wish you every success with that.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
All right. Also, thank you for coming out and sharing all of this information with us.
It's been a privilege. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Well, this is Tripler Pell with Chalant Media. We've been speaking with JA Carlton. You can find her on Facebook at facebook.com/JA Carlton Author or on Twitter at JA Carlton Author. If you'd like to learn more about Chalant Media, you can find us at chalantmedia.com.